Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Flight Simulation Association's Fly July live stream interview with Orbx and X-Plane. My name is Evan. I'm the co-founder of Flight Simulation Association. We are super happy to be here supporting Fly July 2022, the annual celebration of all things flight simulation. Now, we're Flight Simulation Association. We're hosting today's live stream. We are the folks who run Flight Sim Expo every year. You can find out more about us at flightsimassociation.com. But you're here to hear from, of course, Austin, the creator of X-Plane, as well as Anna and Santi from Orbx, and we're here talking about X-Plane 12, of course, one of the most highly anticipated releases of the year. We're talking about Orbx's plans for X-Plane 12, what they're going to be developing in terms of content, and we'll have some previews, some screenshots, some videos, as well as lots of chances to win. So let me jump right into that. Now is your opportunity, if you haven't already, to enter our live stream raffle. We've got a whole pile of prizes available to be won today, including copies of X-Plane 12, including 2 Thrustmaster TCA Airbus Officer Packs, and a whole lot more products from Orbx, products from Aerobask. So go ahead and enter that contest. You don't have to be a Flight Sim Association member. Anyone can enter. The URL is flightsimassociation.com/contest. You'll see that URL up on the screen again. You put in your information, and then as you can see on the screen here, once you've entered, you can actually do a few other things, get some bonus entries, and increase your chances to win. Now, how today's going to work is we're starting with about 45 minutes of questions with the panel. You'll see them come on here in just a moment. After that, I'll come back. I'm going to announce the first set of winners. There'll be 7 winners that I announce. Then we'll go back to the panel to take live questions from you, from the audience. And then at the end, I'll come back for a second time and I'll announce that second set of winners. Now, if you want to ask questions, we're taking questions from Flight Sim Association members, so you can submit those questions through our website if you're a member. And if you're not a member, wherever you're watching, if you're watching on the X-Plane YouTube channel, on FS Fleet, or many of the other places, if you're listening on Sky Blue Radio, you can also put your questions in the chat, and I'm relying on those moderators to send those questions my way. So moderators, when you're seeing a great question that you think should be part of the stream, send that my way. We'll get that included and answered in our second half today. And like I said, we're grateful to our many stream partners for helping us spread the word. You might be watching on FS Elite, with Blue Games, with Orbx, with X-Plane, on the Moose Crew, Mustafa's channel on Twitch, FS News, the Pilot Club, listening live on Sky Blue Radio, and maybe watching with Sky Command as well. So big thank you to all of those moderators for helping us put on such a great show today. Now, like I said, today's presentation is hosted by us at FSA, but it's moderated by a new friend of mine that I met out in San Diego back in Flight Sim Expo 2021. His name is Brian. He goes by Sky. He runs the Sky Command channel on Twitch. And this is the kind of thing he does for a living. He runs Plus Up, which is an experiential marketing company. He's volunteered to help us out at Flight Sim Expo in Houston, which is phenomenal. And he's here today to lead us through a phenomenal conversation. So with that in mind, I'm going to hand things over to Sky, and we will get started with the Flight Sim Association Fly July live stream interview with X-Plane and Orbx. Over to you, Sky.
Together such an amazing webinar. Hello, everybody. My name is Sky Command, aka Sky C, aka Sky, and it is a pleasure to be your moderator for this panel. Now, I've been a flight simmer since 2006, and I was absolutely determined to make it for Janet Airlines in real life. And since then, my love of flight sim and being a part of the community has only gotten higher because of flight. Anywho, today's topic we're all eager to hear about, and I'm sure no doubt will be another step towards the golden age of flight simulation. But before that, let me introduce the panelists who hardly need any intros. And of course, first, we have Austin, leader of X-Plane. How you doing, Austin?
Doing well.
And Austin, well, we also have Anna, CEO of Orbx. Hello, Anna. How are you doing?
Hey, guys. Doing good here.
Amazing. And lastly, and of course, not leastly, we have Santi, who's a community manager at Orbx and also a scenery developer for X-Plane 12. How you doing, Santi?
Doing great.
Awesome. Now, thank all 3 of you for being here. I really appreciate you for taking the time. And let's just get started, right? Let's get right into it. We're here to talk about X-Plane 12 and Orbx working together. But we'd be doing a disservice to our audience if we didn't acknowledge the energy that Microsoft Flight Sim has brought to our community. Now, the question, and I'm going to start it to Anna really quick. What has that energy meant for you in your teams?
Well, we've been in flight simulation for a very long time, since 2006, and so we always love to see the creators and what they come up with, and so we very much welcome the entry of new players, new creators in the scenery space, in the development space, because it just makes this place so much better and the world so much bigger.
I love that. Now, Austin, same question. MFSS has brought a lot of energy. What does that energy mean to you and for X-Plane?
Gosh, well, I don't know. So there's been an interesting thing going on. Like for the last, 25 years, myself and Microsoft have been kind of playing a little game of leapfrog. And it's like every 2 years, one of us leapfrogs over the other. And for the first time in history with Microsoft Flight Sim, the new one, I don't feel like we're leapfrogging one over the other. I feel like we're taking two actually different directions. Where Microsoft is just like hitting it out of the park with the scenery as viewed from certain altitudes, okay, from certain altitudes, certain lighting, certain conditions. Their scenery is just absolutely just the best we've ever seen. And X-Plane, I'm taking it in a somewhat different direction. With X-Plane 12 especially, I mean, the flight model, I can say, is professional grade. I mean, we're using it to flight test eVTOLs. I mean, I can tell you about the use cases of the X-Plane flight model. But for once, I feel like it's not a leapfrog, it's a diversion. And the customers now are able to say, well, what am I looking for in a sim? Do I want the ultimate flight model? Do I want the ultimate scenery? What am I looking for in a sim? And there's no right answer or wrong answer.
Austin, that's a very transparent answer, actually. But tell me a little bit about your different direction, right? Can you elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So, what was it? So, X-Plane uses obviously blade element theory. People have heard me talk about it 100 times, where the airplane is mathematically broken down into a bunch of little pieces, and we find the force on each little piece. Here, I can do a little quick screen share right now. So here we are in a Cirrus, and then I can turn on, the forces. I can see the forces acting on the airplane, and maybe it's too low res to come through. Evan, are you able to actually capture the forces here, or is that not going to come through on this?
We can see it. Definitely can see it.
And we've taken this up to new levels, like finding the angle of attack in each piece and the airflow, and even the streamlines acting over the aircraft. And so X-Plane has had this blade element theory for, right since the beginning, for 20, 25 years or so. But it was about about 3 years ago that someone named Kyle Clark came to me at a company called Beta. He said, hey, Austin, we're building an electric vertical takeoff and landing airplane. You want to help simulate that? I was like, yeah, sure. And so I got into that company and started simulating an electric VTOL. And what's so fascinating is, I've got a model of it somewhere. Here we go. And this is Thompson Meeks, by the way. He's my right-hand man in tech support and marketing and stuff like that. He's my fixer. The mob term is he's my fixer. If there's anything I don't know in the middle of this interview, I'll turn to him.
Hello, fixer.
What did we decide about that again? So his memory is better than mine. So anyway, so this is an eVTOL, electric vertical takeoff and landing airplane. This is what Beta is building. And what's so fascinating about this thing is it's got wings, obviously, that lift. It's got rotors up here like a drone that helps it hover. It's got a propeller back here to push. And to get going, it's running all of them at the same time. And so the name of the game when I got into Beta was make X-Plane simulate that aircraft. Well, here's what's so fascinating about that. We got the wings, we got the rotors, we got the prop, we got the interaction of all of them, we got the booms. They did versions with skids, they did versions with landing gear. And so all of these different aerodynamics are all going at the same time. They're all interacting. And so it's actually the most complex mathematical simulation you're going to find. This might think, oh, a jet, that's the most complex. No, not necessarily. Jets don't even have prop wash to speak of.
So Austin, how does that matriculate to the direction that you're heading in that's different from Microsoft Flight Sim? I mean, we're modeling some of those same aerodynamics in that platform as well, right?
Sure,
so talk to me a little bit of some of the differentiators.
Yeah, so exactly. So when X-Plane uses blade element theory, it has to have an accuracy that is absolutely professional grade because their test pilots started actually using the simulator to prepare for their real flights. and we started trying out all the different possible variations of this aircraft. We tried many variations of this aircraft in X-Plane to see what to build for real. And so the next thing you knew, we were building the simulator to try out what we would build for real, train the test pilots before they'd fly the real airplane. And because Beta was building prototypes so fast, and is to this day, if I was ever wrong, it was quickly found out when we deployed the real aircraft if the real aircraft didn't match the sim. And so I was forced by my need to support the company, support the mission, and do a job that would never come back to bite us later. To absolute 100% top-notch, mathematically provable on the stand, provable in a deposition level of support and delivery of the math. And while I'm doing this with Microsoft Flight Sim, they won't even let you use their sim for training. They don't even want to use it for training. And I'm up here at the test pilot level for the most aerodynamically and mathematically complex airplane you're going to find. So it's a radically different direction. Now,
gotcha.
Toot my horn on flight model all day long. Well, Microsoft can turn around and toot their horn on their incredible 3D scenery that I don't have.
Well, allow me to paraphrase. You're sort of talking a little bit of collaboration, though, right, Austin? You're talking about there's an open collaboration. You're working directly with those manufacturers. Here's where I sort of want to tie Orbx in. Talk about a little bit, and this is to you, Anna. Talk about a little bit of the work and the collaboration that Orbx has with X-Plane 12 and you guys working together.
Well, we have been developing scenery for X-Plane, for a long time, and so we will definitely continue to do that. And we're putting the content across, and to do that, we will need some help. So we are our developers, and Sante being one. We've got access to the data and looking at our products and how they move across. And Austin says that, everything is going to have backward compatibility, which is really good. But definitely some of these footage that I see on screen is amazing. And so we still haven't scratched the surface of this, and we don't know what we're going to do next with it, really. But certainly it looks fantastic from here.
So I'm going to put Santi on the spot because you kind of dropped the hint that he's been developing for X-Plane as well. Can you sort of point to some of the differentiators and how Orbx is playing a role there?
Yeah, absolutely. There's well, like Anna was saying, that we're actively using the beta and testing out our previous X-Plane products and bringing them over to the new sim. So there's a lot of fantastic new features in X-Plane 12 that really bring the scenery. It makes it come alive, basically. To me, from the first glance, it's just way more crisp visually, especially with all the new features of X-Plane 12. So I won't spill too much, but basically we're having a lot of fun seeing it on the new platform.
Well, I agree with you, and definitely, guys, we have a lot more to share, but we're going to keep it, Austin, right back in the hot seat there. We're talking more about this direction. It seems to me, right, that we are continuing to make sure that we're catering to veterans and people who are really enthusiastic about flight sim, right? Can I turn a quick page and see if there's anything new or exciting that will bring some of the newer generation flight simmers on board before we acknowledge what we have for the veterans?
Sure. So, I guess I'm gonna turn that on its head just a tiny little bit. By saying,
please do. What
type of new airplanes are we bringing in?
Oh, now you're talking.
How is that going to bring in the next generation of aviation? So I was building. All right, so let me go to both extremes here, because this whole discussion is one of extremes. Extremes of flight model and X-Plane and scenery in Microsoft. The extremes of the Realism and X-Plane. Also, what we don't have, which is a Microsoft's global radar map of the world. This whole discussion is one of extremes, and this is what X-Plane 12 development has been. But on one end of the extreme, we'll have something I say the F4 Phantom. This has always been like my fantasy plane, the ultimate badass, non-computer controlled, nothing but jet fuel and hydraulic fluid. It's like the Chuck Norris airplane. And I was emailing someone that was always talking to me about little ultralight type aircraft designs. And just in conversation, he happened to mention, oh yeah, and back when I was an instructor pilot for the F4 Phantom in the Israeli Air Force, I learned the following thing. And I was like, whoa, stop, wait, what? And so this guy, an Israeli Air Force instructor pilot in F4 Phantom, and that just led down 30 days of absolute madcap development and experimentation and beta testing, as he just gave me every single thing he knew about the F4. I put it all into the sim, delivered the aircraft to him, and by the time we were done, that F4 is ready to train Phantom pilots. Unfortunately, 20 years too late. We're not training F4 pilots anymore. But for the old school veterans, if that's what you want to talk about, the old school of aviation, the F4 Phantom, the supersonic dynamics, the delta wing dynamics, the non-fly-by-wire, the blown flaps, the drooped, the delta wing and the wash. They're actually, the jet wash actually does affect the horizontal stabilizer a bit, as we've learned. All these old school aerodynamics for the gas burning F4 Phantom are in there to perfection. But there's a new type of aviation that's coming along that I also want to support, and that's the electric, the absolute opposite of the F4 Phantom. The electric
I see.
Off and landing, no fuel, maybe 120, 130 miles an hour flight, civilian use only, no weapons. It seems to be the opposite of the F4 Phantom. And when a lot of people hear, electric aviation, that'll never work. It doesn't go as far. It doesn't go that fast. It doesn't have very much payload range. What's the point? Well, the point is an electric airplane requiring vertical takeoff and landing, needing no fuel and no runway, can go wherever the heck you want to go.
Austin, let's keep going down that path. What about the new form of type of aircraft will latch on? Will the new flight simmers latch on to?
Well, so here's the interesting thing. And again, you'll notice all the answers to your questions, they keep hitting reality, not so much marketing or users. They hit some element of the reality of aviation. So right now there's a bit of a pilot shortage. Okay. Everybody's flying again. I've heard of an airline in the Mideast literally having to ground Airbus A380s for lack of flight crew. Okay. $billion-dollar assets sidelined for lack of a flight crew. All right, we're in a pilot shortage. Right now, one pilot might fly 50 people, right? Two pilots, 100 people in the airplane. This is, parent-teacher ratio or your student-faculty ratio of 50 to 1, right? One pilot, 50 passengers. Well, these eVTOLs might be one pilot, 3 passengers. You see?
Okay, I see.
So in other words, whatever pilot shortage we have now is going to look like nothing compared to the pilot shortage we're about to have, because we're about to have a new type of airplane that actually takes you where you want to go, lands in the middle of the city, lands in a skyscraper right by Central Park, hops over the traffic of Los Angeles and puts you at a convention center in the middle of LA.
I see. So does that, Austin, does that mean that that X-Plane 12 is, while modeling these new types of aircraft, that's going to help bring in our next generation and address a pilot shortage potentially, right?
Yes,
based on a real-world application.
Exactly. We are going to have a pilot shortage, the likes of which you've never seen, because there will be so many of these electric airplanes and there will be so few passengers on board each one per pilot. The pilot to passenger ratio is about to go up by a factor of 10. We're going to need more pilots. They can get started with X-Plane now. The kids that are flying electric airplanes now are going to develop these skills that people will be desperate for in about 10 years or so when these airplanes get certified and moved into deployment. So
I love that.
How do you support the veterans? How do you support the newcomers? I don't think of veterans and newcomers in the marketplace. I don't think of veterans and newcomers as customers. I think of the simulator as supporting veteran flights, such as the F4 Phantom.
Austin, I'm glad that you touched on that. Thinking about the veterans versus some of the newcomers. I kind of want to take that same energy and ask you, Anna, in your opinion, is there a difference between X-Plane 12 and maybe Microsoft Flight Simmer? Conversely, is there a difference between sort of veterans and some of the new simmers? Have you seen?
Look, I think that, it's just a personal choice, really, what people use the simulator for. I think that what definitely we have seen in terms of the scenery is there is different kinds of people that buy our stuff, right? So there are people that are after that extreme realism, and I'm very interested to hear what Austin is saying there, and training the next generation, because I do think that the future of aviation has got a lot to do with this, personal vehicles and flying taxis and liveries and that kind of stuff. So it probably is going to be a shortage of people that are pilots when you're starting to deploy this in market. So the people that actually buy our stuff are probably more of there's probably a few categories, but let's sort of divide them between people that are after the extreme realism, and we're doing some work in Unreal Engine, for example, to sort of bring that realism even more on the screen and on the not so much on the simulators actually, but just kind of seeing the possibilities. So we're not just doing experiments on airports, but also other land assets. So people that are really after that, and then there are some people that are explorers and they just want to go and see the world, and those ones are, you know, the great, they're great, you know, users of our scenery stuff, because they go and see a city, for example, that they've never visited before, and so that's more, especially during the lockdowns, and in Australia we had lots of those. It was really good to see people going to explore places that they, including myself, you know, that they've never seen, or maybe you just sort of go back to some places that you have seen, and sort of just, you know, relive your holidays or your trips, and that has been really good. So I think what I'm hoping that Explain 12 would bring is, you know, people that are interested. We are in the business of making realism, you know, making sort of realistic scenery and not fantasy ones. And so I'm really hoping that there will be a whole bunch of people that are going to come and, you know, want to see what the world looks like in super detail.
See, I love that you mentioned exploring the scenery, right? Exploring the scenery. I'm curious on to how does Orbx enable or help people to continue to explore scenery? Like, for example, let me give you, what if I wanted to make my own scenery, or wanted to learn how to sort of, maybe I wanted to explore that way, right? And instead of just flying, maybe I wanted to help make it, maybe it's a neighborhood or a holiday that I remembered, right? That I wanted to sort of bring to life. What sort of things are Orbx doing to position themselves that way?
So, we are now setting up, which will be a few months away still, but we're setting up an academy, and not to compete with the FSA, that's association, but I know you guys have got some academy as well. But that is going to be a hub for new people to come in and find content, but also especially, you know, tap into the expertise of people that have been doing this stuff for quite some time. And I think that is it's a bit of a mission for us. So we're definitely in the, you know, we definitely want to see more people coming into the space of making scenery and cover it. The world is a big place, and it changes. It changes all the time. It's not just like when you think you've covered it all, you've got to start all over again because things have changed, right?
Right.
So the more people, the better. And what I would personally like to see is the quality to continue to improve, and for people that are sort of, you know, doing their first piece of scenery, and they're just sort of learning how to do it, to actually understand what good quality is, because that is just going to be good for everybody. It's going to be good for them. It's going to be good for people that, you know, buy this scenery, or even if it's a freebie, and we definitely support freeware ourselves. We kind of want to see that high quality, you know, come into the market, so people get a lot more hooked. If you buy a piece of scenery and it's a bit crap, I'm not going to do that again. But if it's too quiet, you go, oh well, I'm just going to go and get the next one now. So that's what we want, right? That is definitely what we want.
Very interesting, Anna. You've correctly attached realism, right, and that turning into an experience. Austin, you also mentioned you're hyper focusing on the realism, right? Can you talk about some of those features that will bring the realism in, and that would at least keep the veterans maintained and keep them sort of satiated with that realism? Can you talk about what you're doing there?
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot of ways I could go with the answer to that question.
Bring it on, Austin. Tell me all of them, please.
Right. And so the first, obviously, I've already tackled, was the flight model.
Right.
Flight model's got to be good enough to test what an airplane will do and be right about it before anyone's flown it. So when you fly it, it does what the simulator said. And that is the epitome of accuracy. And we are settling out on that plateau. Another way is absolutely graphically. So Ben Supnick, who's my right-hand man in the coding area, it occurred to him one day, he got tired of the artist always being a little dissatisfied with the airplane look, the way the airplanes look. It's like, all right, we are going to get our rendering down to the point here that we are tracking the watts per meter coming from the sun. And we're going to have the metal reflect and the plastic absorb, and the tires and the rubber have a certain sheen that other materials don't, and get all the lighting and the materials down to first principles physics. And what's so fascinating about this to me is we're at first principles flight modeling. Ben is making the first foray into first principles.
Can you elaborate on that? I mean, like, call me the complete noob. What's first flight modeling? Please enlighten me and our audience.
First principles means we're not just imitating what we want to imitate. We're not just doing whatever a focus group said. No, we're going down to the fundamental physical laws.
Wow.
So X-plane, and this could turn into a 2-hour presentation. I could break it if we have time, but I'll give you a quick equation. Okay, I'll give you a quick equation. The lift on a bit of airplane wing is equal to the coefficient of lift at CLS v² rho over 2. The coefficient of lift times the area times the velocity squared times the air density divided by 2.
Did everyone in the audience catch that? Write it down. Quiz at the end.
That is a fundamental first principles or close to first principles law. It's a law that all airplanes follow. It's not based on a focus group. It's not based on PR. It's not based on marketing. It's based on physics. And this is the absolute core tight little code loop of X-plane. Finding the force acting on each little bit of the aircraft. Then it builds up all the forces to get the total forces and moments on the airplane and turns out to accelerations, velocities, and positions until you're moving across the sky, which is also known as flying. So first principles means you're following the physics and you don't really care whether you like the answer or not. The answer is you get the answer you get in reality. So X-plane's been doing that for 20 years, okay? Or 20 years, because I wouldn't do it any other way.
Right.
Graphics, computer graphics have not historically been like that. Computer graphics have always asked the question, what's the quickest, cheapest, easiest way I can get something that looks good enough to sell? All right. That's been the question of computer graphics. Ben Supnick now, for the first time that I know of, has turned that question on its ear and said, I don't care what you want it to look like. How many watts of sunlight are striking a square meter of aluminum or carbon fiber on this airplane? And how much of that light is reflected back to the viewer? How much is absorbed? How much is scattered? And in what direction does the scatter come back at you? And this is first principles rendering. And we are starting to get there. And this is my first little foray. You know what? You'll notice I said by saying, Microsoft's got the scenery, X-plane's got the flight model.
Yep, two different directions.
I'm starting to put a few arrows in the quiver of rendering here by going with first principles lighting. And this is only the beginning. We've got water. I think Evan was tossed up some Seaplane footage there while I was ranting a second ago. We've got first principles interaction with the water. The floats on that airplane that you saw. Oh, no, I didn't say, let's bounce the floats around in a way that people won't complain about. Oh, no. Every float was broken down into a mass that displaced water and had buoyancy, deflected water, and followed the conservation momentum to repel the float. And I'm pretty sure there was a brief little moment where you could see all the little forces on the float. There was the public diagnostic on that to prove what I'm talking about. And so we've got first principles on the water and the way they interact with the floats.
So Austin, I'm curious about tying this back to sort of making this real for our veterans. Is this the demand that you're seeing generated from yourself? And this is sort of a self-reflective question. Are you driving this demand, or are you receiving this feedback from some of the veteran pilots that they're looking to understand exactly how much wattage is coming from the sun? Which way is this coming from?
Yeah, so I don't know the answer to that question.
Yes, we got him, everyone. All right, but I'm curious, what's your best take?
Well, Laminar Research is run a little bit like Game of Thrones, if you recall that. Each person at Laminar Research, they're in their own little fiefdom. They've got their own little expert area.
Gotcha.
And yes, in theory, King Joffrey controls everyone, but really, and it's kind of the same thing here. I'm sitting here in my office in South Carolina. I got my fixer to come by and back me up with any facts if necessary. But Ben, there is no office at Laminar Research. Ben is in his house probably right now, if he's not working this weekend, sitting there saying, well, I need to get the lighting just right. And really what he's working on right now is trying to dial in these DSF files a little better and get some cloud rendering bug fixes. And so Ben is like, I got to get the lighting in clouds. I'm like, I got to get the flight model to make sure we're all good for beta. And a guy named Jim Keir, he's doing the air traffic control. Every time I find something wrong with air traffic control, I tell him. Jim Gregory, he just did the F-14, which I can show you if you want. So all these different people have their own different areas of expertise. They're all batting him in, and I'm making requests. Oh, I want you to do this. I want you to do that. This should be better. That should be better. And sometimes the answer is, and I don't have time, or that's not what people want, or no. And sometimes the answer is, all right, fine, I'll do it. And then I see it done in the next 30 days. So, the whole thing, what makes a good flight sim? That's a surprisingly kind of group-oriented, informal process we go through. And of course, we listen to customers. Of course we do. But when I am so excited about coming back to first principles and coming back to real aviation, notice the whole concept of a focus group doesn't exactly apply. My question is, what does the real airplane do? And that really is the final.
That comes from you. I see. Now I'm wondering, Anna, and to the team at Orbx, if there's a different perspective, because you guys are squarely in tune with the community in terms of add-on and support and making sure things are adding to our simulation. So where do you think where's the demand coming from? Are you guys perfectionists in your own right, or are you hearing the community sort of adding to that demand to make it as real as possible or to make it as additive as possible? What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'll answer this a bit, but I think Santa should chip in. From my perspective, and I very much agree with what Austin is saying from a slightly different perspective, which is that if you make a product that you like, the product is going to be good. So I agree that you do listen to what people are saying and are asking you, but it probably is not dissimilar to what you actually like, right? You yourself like. And so in the organization, I've been trying very much to push this idea of owning a product. And so if you own the product, you actually make the product that you like. So whether it's a city, if it's an airport, if it's an aircraft, whatever it is, if you own it, you do it, and you take all of the decisions and the creative decisions around it, and it's just going to be good because you like it. So if you like it, it'll be a lot of people like you that you like it, even if you feel that you're a bit wacky at times, so maybe you sit on the fringe. There's going to be other people like you that like it. And so I think it's very much for us also, while we do listen to our customers a lot in terms of, I like to fly there rather than there, and this airport rather than that airport. I think that there is probably that first principle that applies to us as well, which is that we basically do stuff that we like. And when we pick a city, we pick it because we think it's cool, and not because someone has kind of told us to do that, right?
Sorry, Charlotte.
I think we probably have got more the finger on the pulse in terms of the community. So I'll let you chip in that one.
Something
to add on.
Yeah.
I think Anna captured it pretty well, and the way I look at it from a development perspective, I treat it like any artist would. If you're actively working on something that you're intrigued and passionate about, you're gonna see that in the quality and the outcome of the product itself. If you're getting told what to make, you may not have that interest as much, and the outcome might be a little bit different. But if you're passionate about what you're creating, the results are going to show.
Yeah. So all fairly focused on doing what you like, right? And adding to what the community is. Hey, listen, that's an honest answer. I like it. So let's take just a quick step back, and I'm going to toss it back to you, Austin. I'm curious, what feature of X-Plane 12 are you most excited about?
Well, I mean, I love the general idea of being able to count on the flight model, tell me what an airplane is going to do. But I'll tell you a little one that we haven't spoken about too much is the seaplane dynamics. I've actually got some professional seaplane pilots that put out forest fires and stuff like that. They land on the lake in a challenge, they scoop up water and they dump it on forest fires. And they're going to use X-Plane to train their pilots. And it's going to save them like, $2,000 an hour or whatever it costs to operate these airplanes. And it has been so dang fun to fly these seaplanes, because at the same time, I had my water guy, I think Sydney Just took over the water, getting all this hyper realistic water. At the same time, Ben Sutnick, my scenery guy, he got the water to come up and intersect the land. So you could literally float up and then, like a boat dock, and then your wheels would take over, see the land and roll up onto the land. And so we have the water dynamics, the land dynamics, the water rendering, and the float plane accuracy. And the amount I've learned about seaplanes has been so fun. The guys that are doing the training in X-Plane has said I should get an honorary seaplane license just for but I'm going to run up to Alaska and get the real license as soon as I get a second to breathe.
Good luck.
What is so dang fun about this is there's completely different forces driving these floats at different speeds. Right now, in this little image that we've got showing up right here, the airplane was going slowly enough that it was mostly buoyancy. But as you pick up speed, the drag increases because the front of the float kicks the water down, then the back sinks down, and now you're just what's called plowing. You pick up more speed and it starts to turn to momentum transfer. It's no longer a buoyancy game, it's a momentum transfer game. If the water's kicked down, the airplane's kicked up. Then the water starts to feel hard. Now it's water skiing. Then you got the back of the floats dragging. You actually push the nose forwards to get the back of the floats out to reduce the friction. That's what lets you build up the next 15 or 20 knots. Then you raise the nose, but not enough to drag the back of your floats to get the thing up in the air and flying. That's what you do every time you take off in a seaplane. There's so much going on.
All right. Hold on, Austin. How much of this is going to be ready to go for us?
It already is. I've been flying it. I'm flying. I can demo it right now if you want, although you see the video.
I'll take your word for it, but you're telling me that this level of accuracy is ready to go. Ready to go when the time comes for X-Plane 12.
It was used in that video that I recorded this morning, so Evan would have it to overlay the discussion. Yeah, that's all in there. All right, I'll prove it to you another way. So first of all, it's in the video. Second of all, Bridger Aerospace is using it, and Google Bridger Aerospace if you want. But then the third thing you can do is when you're flying X-Plane, you can hit Shift M. Shift M. That does what's called a cycle dump. It basically is a complete check of my work. It puts out a gigantic file that shows how every single bit of force was derived on the aircraft for that exact moment in time. It's thousands and thousands of lines of dense text and math, but it's the proof of my work for that moment in time. Hit Shift M and look at it. Now, when I first released this, I had a certain question about releasing all my information. So proprietary information was being delivered to potential competitors. That was a drawback. I elected to do it anyway because first and foremost, the only way I can say I know my work is good is if I let any dang person check it that wants to. And so I was willing to take a certain competitive risk to make sure people could check my work if they wanted to.
I love the pride, Austin. I love that. You're like, hey, check my work. That's how much I care about this. Okay, you can. I've got a command key for you to literally check my work. Now, I'm not sure, and Anna and Orbx, if you guys are allowed to share, but is there a favorite of something that's coming up after X-Plane 12 is releasing that is there something that you're most excited about?
In our pipeline, you mean, of the X-Plane stuff?
Yeah, correct.
I think Santa can talk to that one.
Oh, Santi, by the way, you look very strong and handsome. If you want to leak anything now.
I'm just gonna say Brisbane International looks phenomenal in X-Plane 12.
Brisbane, you guys heard it here first. Brisbane's looking pretty good coming down the pipeline.
It's looking really nice, especially what Austin was touching on earlier about how the effect of sunlight on different materials. It's just out of the box. You can tell immediately the difference between the previous version and the new sim.
Wow.
Sorry, Brian. On Brisbane, the CEO of the Brisbane airport, for some reason, kind of found out that we have released it, obviously already, but we're sort of working on that, and they are pretty excited. They are actually using it for their own internal purposes and training.
Really?
Training the teams at the moment. Yeah, they did like some kind of press release yesterday as well about this. So I think that it is so important. I don't want to rehash that, but the realism is so important because it does become, if you think about the digital twins and all of these sort of themes that are coming, they're becoming a little bit more popular. There is definitely such an interest in, having this on your screen or putting some hardware around it and actually being able to really experience a place. So this is not just flight simulation for, entertainment, if you want, but it is very much about the training and even internal stuff you never see, like in the case of Brisbane Airport, but very useful for them and for their pilots. And we did the same with Essendon Fields, right? Essendon Fields is our home airport. We deployed it on 3 platforms because we really wanted to cover everybody. And what the airport authority there is doing, they basically want to market that airport to private jets because Tullamarine, which is the main Melbourne airport, is very short distance from there, and it's got expensive landing fees and stuff, and it's just harder. Whereas They
Right.
just want to, bring the corporate jets down. They've got the new Bombardier hangar is right in there. They just built a brand new. So it's becoming more like a, your kind of corporate jet sort of destination. But some pilots just don't even know it kind of really exists, or they just don't know how to taxi around and don't know where to go. And so we did this airport specifically for that reason, so they actually know exactly what it looks like.
So you're dropping software or scenery that is so realistic that they're using it for their training purposes at the airport. They went to you guys and said, you guys might be able to model our airports more than we can. Honestly, that's very impressive. That's a, congratulations to you guys. That's huge. I love that. Austin, back to you really quick about X-Plane. Okay. Can we talk a little bit about the collaboration between you and Orbx from your perspective, and maybe about the working relationship and what we can sort of expect out of the gate?
Yeah, sure. So the whole concept of X-Plane in the past has been that it used to be you get 8 DVDs, and the scenery had to fit on the DVD for the whole planet Earth. And then we kind of moved past that and said, well, now we're going to go digital. But we still had about the same size constraints, because some people, they still would order it on DVD, and I want people to download the whole world. Remember, I'm in a slightly different situation than Orbx. Orbx is able to say, we want a perfectly accurate Brisbane. We want to have, Miami or Florida so perfect it's real. That's not quite the angle I take. The angle I take is you got to have the whole dang planet, because I'm not going to have a customer coming to me saying, but where's my airport?
Right.
And so X-Plane is a mile wide and an inch deep when it comes to scenery. Not so much when it comes to the other stuff, but the scenery is a mile wide and an inch deep. That is the perfect entry for Orbx to say, now we're going to make scenery that's a foot wide and a mile deep to really get the detail for a given area. And without question, I'm always in contact with Ben to make sure that the orthophoto scenery works. And right now, just to show you how the sausage is made, we're having a little problem. We're trying to get the water to interact with the orthophoto scenery at the beaches and the edges.
Gotcha.
So all this incredible orthophoto scenery that Orbx delivers, all the incredible water, which is absolutely physical, and you don't ship, Orbx doesn't ship the water. You need that X-Plane water, so it needs to interact with the scenery at the coastline. And so that's the little problem we're trying to untangle behind the scenes right now. To get that little juncture between the scenery and the water, and we don't want the waves to look stupid or something like that. Wow. So as far as the collaboration between me and Orbx, my scenery is enough for anyone to see what it's like to fly an airplane anywhere on Earth. Orbx is now perfectly positioned to come in and do the high-res scenery for whatever areas of the planet they see fit. And of course, we keep the lines of communication open technically to speed that process along, no question.
Beautiful. Anna, same question. Can you talk about the relationship, the fruitful relationship that is between X-Plane and Orbx?
Yeah, I mean, we've been, like I said before, we have been developing scenery for these guys for a long time. So I think for the moment, we're really looking at this beta, and we're looking at the possibilities and covering the whole planet in very high details has been Orbx's mission. In fact, that's what our name is, right? It's orb, as in, the sphere, and X in, X 10 times the details, so X times the details. That's really where the name comes from. So that's what we are about. So we continue to look at that. Santa, we're actually trying to create a bit of a growing pod of developers that are interested in making scenery. And our main, product line has for X-Plane, apart from the airports, the regions have been a very, very important thing. I particularly like the regions because I sort of like to kind of, fly around and have a look at, different places and stuff. And some of them look fantastic. And that is certainly something that Orbx does that not very many people can do. We do have a geospatial, section in the business. We source the best data. We have got algorithms to do the blending and the coloring and, what it looks like if you just go by, tiles and they're completely, raw. So there is a lot of work, and I mean a lot of work. So just even to do like a small region, it would take us north of 6 to 8 months to develop. So this is like long sort of development times. So I'm really looking forward to actually restarting that region area, scenery on top of the airports and the other things that we do. So yeah, I think it'd be pretty interesting to see how X-Plane renders all that, which
Listen,
by the sound of it is pretty good.
I'm gonna step aside as a moderator and just be back as a normal flight simmer. And I got to say how excited I am that Orbx and X-Plane continue to have such a close relationship, because we're the ones who benefit the most. We, the community. So that's all good things to hear. But we're gonna keep it in your lane really quick. What can we expect out of the gate from Orbx once X-Plane 12 drops?
Well, I think we've got some products that are sort of being developed. I won't sort of say exactly. The reason why I want to kind of unbutton that is because when you go into testing, there's always something that you don't like or is going wrong, and then you go, and then you made a promise, and you go, and I don't want to ship stuff if it's not good, right?
Right.
So
right.
if something goes wrong because we, the platform is in beta, we are more in beta than we're in Delta. Theta or something, so we sort of have to learn it, and it's a little bit like we did with Microsoft. We had to learn that, and we kind of learned it on our own skin sometimes, and so you make mistakes. And so I don't kind of want to say, oh, we're going to ship that by this date, because we just don't do that. So I think pretty much we sort of say we're going to have all of these products that we want to do, and we published our roadmap a while ago, and then we get there. Sooner or later we get there, and sometimes we just don't get there because we actually find some fundamental problems that we can't overcome. So sorry, I can't give you a super straight answer, but that's really what's happening in terms of
It's fine, guys. I'll keep asking them. Maybe by the end of the show we might get something out of that. We might get a little teaser. All right, you guys have survived my gauntlet. I just want to take a quick step back and get more of the joy. It's clear that the community and I and everyone is very excited to see what X-Plane has to offer, but let's take a little bit deeper step into the people that are here in the panelists, right? If you don't mind me, I'll start by saying I've always wanted to get my PPL, Austin. And particularly, I've wanted to do it in the SR22. Now, all of my buddies have recommended that I don't learn in the SR22 due to the costs, right? But I'm not going to listen to them. 2 questions for you. What do you think about the SR22 in terms of a learner aircraft? And do you have an aircraft of your own?
Yeah, wow, talk about great questions. Because here's why. So the Cirrus SR22 that Evan's popped up on screen here, that's the first airplane I owned. First airplane I ever owned was
really?
the SR22. It's a Centennial Edition,
Gotcha.
100 years anniversary of flight. It was the same color as the Wright Flyer, kind of a beige linen color.
Mm-hmm.
And I flew that thing for, 800 hours, 1,000 hours, one end of the country, the other, over and over and over. So it's a great little airplane, 310 horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
That's SR22. I think it's 220 horsepower if you get the SR20. It's a fine airplane to learn to fly in. Absolutely fine. Consult your local airport for rates and compare that to your income from the YouTube streams and see. That's always the goal. But I'm not going to try to comment as to how much it costs for you. I can tell you it's a little airplane, and I love the airplane. So
I'll get back to you on the math there, Austin.
Okay, yeah, that's part of the game. Now, of course, you can always take a beat up old Cessna 150 and learn to fly in that. That's what I learned to fly in. And then, you can get a beat up old Cessna 172. You can still learn how to fly. You'll save a little bit of money. So, the Cirrus SR22 is a fine airplane. I'll go ahead and share my screen again here since you're asking about specific airplanes. All right, so just out of coincidence, I was in a Cirrus SR22 here at the moment. You called. Oh, so an incredible thing. You had asked earlier about what do I like so much about X-Plane 12.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about X-Plane 12 is that it really has a 3-dimensional cloud model that actually lets you start to get a sense of how tiny you are compared to nature when you're in a small airplane trying to go somewhere. I mean, sitting here right now in this little Cirrus SR22, if I have to go the way I'm pointed and the turbulence in these clouds is going to destroy an airplane, we have some kind of interesting questions here, I think.
Austin, are we watching live X-Plane 12 footage right here? Just left. Can you rock your wings left and right for the audience? Rock it left and right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm just flying as I talk.
Yep.
But that's assuming Evan doesn't
Incredible.
write my feed. But so here we are flying Cirrus SR22 and X-Plane 12. And now you would ask me about, so anyway, you can really get a sense of the strategic game that you have to play in a light airplane to get through weather. And I can zoom out here. And
my goodness. Wow.
The world is not exactly that small. And with these clouds going up to 40,000 feet, and this little airplane going up to maybe 12,000 feet,
Wow.
you've got some questions to ask about what exactly you're going to get away with and survive the flight. So that's a real fascinating thing in X-Plane 12 that I love.
Wow.
The next thing you would ask me is,
Do you own an airplane?
Yeah, sure. So this is my airplane, a Lancer Evolution. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop sharing the screen for a moment. Now I'm going to share the screen. I'm just going to share the entire screen. Let's see if it will let me do that. Can I share the entire? Okay, now we're going to get into the little more pattern. Sorry. Okay. So now you're seeing my entire desktop, which some people might say is dangerous, but
nope,
okay,
you're all good.
This is my actual airplane. They're way up in Burlington, Vermont. Maybe we have a better picture of it. Oh, here we go. So this is my actual airplane. I'm sorry. Do you see it?
We're gonna get the screen share back on in just a moment. We need for you to share your screen again, Austin.
Oh, okay. Hang on.
Guys, we're doing it live. If you couldn't tell,
Yeah,
we're doing it live.
We're doing it live. Okay. Yeah, played the video because let's try this again. Share the screen, entire screen, and select it and hit share. Do you guys see my screen now? I'm sure you do, right? You see my screen now, right?
We do not, but it's okay. We've got footage if you want to talk through in the background of the plane that you got.
Okay. Now do you see my screen?
Still no, Austin, but you can talk through. We're rolling footage.
That way. Okay, then we're clear. We're not going to do it this way then. So my apologies. What we'll do is, let's see. Can I share? Okay, you see it now?
Nope.
Oh my God.
It's okay, Austin. Talk through.
All right, well, we're going to have to do this verbally because clearly my Mac is denying permission or something like that. Yeah. So my current airplane is a Lancer Evolution. You can Google it. It's 844X, November 844 X-ray. Okay. So yeah, we have Evan is putting some footage of the Evolution.
Wait, can it really maneuver like that?
It probably could, but I never have.
I was gonna say this is your one-to-one yoke, right? This is just replaying something you've done in the air.
Yeah, this is Evan replaying a flight that I flew earlier this morning. So I'm a married man, and nothing causes you to fly more safe than having a wife and a 10-year-old daughter. Trust me. So
Fair.
This is the simulator flying here, okay?
Yep.
But yeah, so that is my airplane though. It's perfectly accurately modeled down to the color of the pens that I have velcroed into the cockpit to take down clearances. Guy named Rodrigo Fernandez came up from South America and spent the day photographing every little bit of the airplane to get it modeled perfectly. And it is modeled perfectly. And I've got the engine, which is a PT6, Pratt & Whitney PT6 turbine modeled perfectly. I mean, it is an exact replica of the airplane. And when I fly the Lancer Evolution in X-Plane 12, this is exactly the same as flying the real airplane. Now, let me just give a little tip here. When they try and fly this airplane, take off at half power, okay? Take off at half power. The thing weighs less than a Toyota Prius, but has 850 horsepower. Okay, and it'll surge to over 1,000 horsepower. If you go to full power to standstill, the spiral slipstream from the prop will hit the stabilizer, spin the airplane like a top, and run it right off the left side of the runway. And when this happens to people, oh, there's a bug. The airplane pulls left. Yeah, the real airplane pulls left because of that spiral slipstream. And so this airplane, like a P-51 Mustang from World War II, takes off at half power because the limiting factor on takeoff is that spiraling slipstream coming back, hitting the stabilizer and wanting to weather vane the airplane off the left. Once you're in the air at half power, you got the gear up, you've got the flaps up, and you built up 120 knots. Then you can feed in more power if you want to because you've got the airflow over the airplane to absorb the engine torque.
The annotation from the pilot manual, heard from Austin live.
Remember what I just said, about 1 million less people go on the internet and say X-Plane's broken because the Lancer Evolution pulls to the left.
Right.
Trust me, the real airplane
make sure you put it in the notes, okay, when they release it, okay? Or give a tip or something, when they first jump in.
Thing appear up on the screen saying, take off at half power. God, if I had a dime for every person left a 1-star review online because the airplane pulls to the left, that means X-Plane is broken. But all
right, well, hold on, Austin. But speaking of advice, though, I'm going to toss it quickly to Anna and Santi here. What advice do you have to simmers coming over to X-Plane or coming into the sim, or experiencing some of your products even for the first time? What general advice would you have for newcomers, or not even newcomers, just simmers in general?
Just simmers in general. I think it's a bit like take your time. Like it's flight simming is not something that you do just like that. Like you pick up. Candy Crush soda, for example, it's not something that you do.
I can't believe you said it.
That was just an in-joke. It was just an in-joke. It's an inside joke. So you just have to take your time, right? You just have to, pick an aircraft you like, and maybe you find that you don't like it very much. Maybe try another one, and then just kind of learn it and be slow at it, and don't, I think if you become impatient, you're probably never going to get there. But it's not a game. It's not a game. Sorry, it's just something you do. It's not an activity, I should say. It's a little bit like if you want to learn how to pilot in real life, you can't just do it in 5 minutes, right? And it's a bit the same. So just kind of take it slowly and enjoy it.
Beautiful and well said. All right, everyone, that is the end of the part 1 of questions. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break, during which Evan is going to announce the first set of winners of the live stream raffle. Evan, take it away.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for that, Brian. And indeed, we will be back to the panel in about 5 minutes. So stay with us. Don't go anywhere. Maybe grab a quick drink, take a break. That's what the folks who are in the panel will probably be doing in the next 5 minutes. And I'm back with you to do our first of 2 giveaways. So we have 7 winners that I am about to announce for all kinds of prizes, including an Aerobask Lancair Legacy, including one of our 2 Thrustmaster yoke packs, and more. So let's just jump into that. We're going to get Austin looking at that screenshot. I can see them working on that in the background, and lots of great questions coming through as well. So thank you to everyone for all the great questions. Really interesting first half, actually. I didn't even know that was what Orbx stood for, that the idea of the globe and 10 times. That was totally new for me. And I'm watching along the X-Plane YouTube chat as well. Big Macus on the X-Plane YouTube says he's willing to give someone $59.99 if they'll tell him when X-Plane 12 comes out. Get it? Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's do some winners. And now, if we announce that you're a winner, so this is important. If I say or mispronounce your name as a winner, you need to send me an email, info@flightsimiassociation.com, within 24 hours to claim that prize. If you don't claim your prize, it's going to be given away to FSA members. And by the way, I'm seeing all you people joining in the Discord. Thank you for that. I'm going to say hi to you afterwards. But you guys should pay attention to Discord in about 36 hours because any unclaimed prizes are coming to you. So here's how it works. I say your name. You send me an email in 24 hours. I'll send you back an email within 24 hours with the details. So let's jump in. Here we go. The Aerobask Lancair Legacy RG. I'm giving away 2 of these. First winner is Sebastian with 2 A's. Congratulations to you, Sebastian. Send me an email. And the second one is Medway. Medway is the second winner. So if I've just said either of your names, handles, send me an email at info@flightsimiassociation.com and claim your prize. Up next is stuff from us. Generators, the developers in our community are so generous, but of course we're going to help out too. So if I go and ask a bunch of developers for stuff, we also want to share. So we are giving away an annual Captain membership that includes now a free hour session with a flight sim coach and a flight instructor. It includes 3 free Orbx products, and it includes discounts and perks at our show, Flight Sim Expo in Houston. So all that stuff comes to you. Plus, you get a bit of our merch. So you can get one of our t-shirts, hats, or if you've ever wanted a flight sim shirt, you can actually design your own, and we'll print it and we'll send it to you if your name is Kevin Cardenti. So Kevin, congratulations. Send me an email, claim that prize, and we'll talk to you via email. Coming up next, Orbx has donated 3 prize packs. These are good for your choice of X-Plane Airport from Orbx, plus a 6-month Volanta subscription. So, winners for Orbx products. Number 1 is Hindsight, which, by the way, that is an awesome name because I know your last name, and that's a great pun, so well done on that. Next one is Jangle. And our third winner for the Orbx prize pack is Rocks. So congratulations, Hindsight, Jangle, and Rocks. Well done, the 3 of you. Make sure that you send me an email because we'll need you to claim that prize within 24 hours. And now, coming up, the first of 2 giveaways of the Thrustmaster TCA Officer Pack Airbus Edition. A great addition to your flight simulation setup for maybe that new A330 that's coming out in X-Plane 12 or any of the other Airbus flight simming that you may have to do. So this is number 1 of 2, and our winner, Big Man Wes. So congratulations, Big Man Wes. You've won a Thrustmaster TCA Officer Pack Airbus Edition. Send me an email, info@flightsimiassociation.com. Claim your prize, and we will get that sent over to you. I am just having a look. It looks like they got the screen share working, so that's good news. And we've got a whole bunch of questions that folks have submitted on the FSA website. I'm seeing a few more coming through in Discord as I've been chatting. So we're going to have an excellent second half as we answer questions. I've got a few more preview videos from X-Plane, and I can see Austin is sharing his screen as well. Now, just before we go back to the panel here in about a minute, you can still keep on entering the contest. You can't enter more than once, but what you can do to increase your chances to win, go back to flightsimiassociation.com/contest, and any of those extra activities like joining the mailing list or following us on Facebook, jumping in our Discord, becoming a member, if you already are a member, you can increase your chances to win at flightsimiassociation.com/contest. So that is what we've got coming up. One more draw in about a half hour from now. I'll be back with you to announce a few more winners, including winners of X-Plane, including winners of that Thrustmaster TCA Airbus Officer Pack, the second version. But now I'm going to hand things back over to the panel. We'll see if everyone is ready. Brian, are we in good shape over there? They are saying they're in good shape. All right, perfect. I see the screen share. I see everything, so we are good to go. Sky, I send things back over to you for the second half and live questions from the audience coming up.
Thank you so much, Evan. Wow. I mean, if you're looking for employment as a hype man, please just let's talk offline, okay? Everybody, we are back, and as was mentioned, it is time from here, all of you in the audience. If anyone in the Butter Club has any questions, shout out to the Butter Club. Butter Club, make sure you guys drop them in chat. All of the questions in this part of the panel will come directly from you guys, but warning, I may ask the question to whoever I choose to best answer it. So the first question is from an incredibly looking streamer named Sky Command. Oh, I guess that's me. The first question goes to Anna. Did you play any sports ever, and does that play a factor into how you lead Orbx?
Do I play any sports? Yeah, I have had, I guess, three major changes, I think, in my sporting career. I started with athletics many years ago, switched to rowing, and I'm cycling now. So the rowing one is probably the one that's sort of freshest, which I still do quite a bit, where you've got, if you're rowing an 8, you've got 9 people in the boat. They don't look at each other because you're all, looking at each other's backs. And you've got to do the same thing at the same time without talking, and only the cox talks. And I think Austin has got something to say about that too. But that is certainly something which you try to replicate in teams where you you really try to, every person's got a job, every seat has some, like a specific role in the boat, and you have to coordinate without talking to each other. And when you get the stroke, when you synchronize it, when you get a set of them, it's the best feeling in the world. And I think that it's probably the best team sport ever, even if it doesn't look like it. Like, it's not considered a team sport, but I think actually it is. It's the best team sport.
I have no experience with.
Austin you did some coxing yourself, is that right?
Yeah, I did. I was the only person that was skinny enough to drive the boat as a coxswain, and tall and lanky enough to row stroke. So yeah, I've spent some time rowing, both rowing and telling other people to row faster. And the tradition at school was whenever you'd win, the coxswain would get thrown in the water. So I've been dunked in the lake my share of times, that's for sure. So, but I guess flying is my preliminary sport these days, if it counts as a sport.
Does it? Can we call pilots athletes? Let's start the trend right now. Pilots are now professional athletes. Okay, we need max contracts.
Well, I think they are, right. Even if no different from drivers.
You're not wrong. We do have to pass a physical, right? You got to be mentally fit and able.
And you've got to you've got to keep your shit together.
You're not wrong. I kind of like it. You heard it here
when
first,
your
guys.
heart rate is up here, you've got to stay calm. You've got to breathe it right down. You sort of have to really calm yourself down. I think Santi might have some sporting.
Oh, do you, Santi? Do you play sports? I bet you played for the NBA. You played for the NBA. Admit it. It's okay. You did.
Oh, no. No, being a Canadian, I'm also a rower, but in a canoe instead.
Am I the only one that has no aquatic experience? You guys all have. Wait, seriously? What are the odds?
Yeah, so the only relation to rowing I have is canoeing, maybe kayaking in the wilderness. other sport, hockey. Did a lot of hockey, so.
Amazing. That's all entirely too cold and too wet for my liking, full disclosure. Okay, time for some of the questions that you guys have posed into the audience. And this one comes from FSA First Officer Spy, Luca, FSA Captain Will, and many others on the X-Plane YouTube channel. When is X-Plane 12 coming out?
Who's that question for?
It's actually to Santi, whenever you're ready. Austin, please.
Okay, so I don't know. Let me start by saying I don't know. All right, so here's the problem. And this, I'm always a guy that says exactly how the sausage is made, no matter how much trouble I get in later. I wanted X-Plane 12 to be out a year ago, okay? But the problem is, this is what's gone into X-Plane 12. I'll give you, like, for an example. When we made the flight model, physics for the floats, it was fine, but the water waves were following the thing from the artist. The physics waves were following me. They weren't the same thing. And so it didn't work right until the artist and the physics guy got together to make sure the physics waves, the rendered waves are the same thing, so the flight model would interact with it perfectly. So it's making one thing better, the rendering of the waves, the flight model of the waves, caused us to have to do the next thing to get them to come together properly. Otherwise, we weren't done. We would do the lighting, and then the lighting would be great, but then that would show up every little flaw in the art assets. And then my artists, they turn in these incredible trucks, the ground trucks that push the airplanes around in. But when they look realistic, it becomes all the much more obvious if they're not moving quite right. So everything we've fixed or improved has just caused the next problem to bubble up to the surface and show up. And what's happening is we're in the middle of Uncanny Valley. You know what Uncanny Valley is?
Oh, yeah, I'm very familiar.
So for those that don't know, if you're watching The Simpsons, it's super easy to watch. It's a fake. If you're watching Billions or Game of Thrones, it's super easy to watch. It's real. The problem is in the middle when you've got computer animation that's like better than a cartoon, but not as good as reality. You can tell something isn't quite right, and it's very uncomfortable to watch. In X-Plane, we're starting to come out the far side of Uncanny Valley. We're starting to look real, but the problem is if anything isn't done, then the entire illusion is broken.
So you're basically Walter White in Breaking Bad, right? He tried to fix it was a different show, but the faucet was broken, so he fixed the faucet. But then the garage door was broken, so he had to fix that. Well, what does that show? Malcolm in the Middle.
Walter White. It's the same with Walter White. It starts as a simple drug deal, but everything cascades to the next deal until he has to control the entire drug trade of Albuquerque, and until he's done the whole thing.
Perfectionist out of all of you guys. It'll never come out.
It's
so, all right. Are we a year? Are we 5 years? Are we 10 years?
No. We're coming out this year. I want to be in beta this summer.
You heard it. Hold it to him, audience. Hold him accountable to it. Let's keep the questions going in the meantime.
We've done 31 private alphas so far. Thompson, all right, now let me bring my fixer in here. Thompson, how many alpha testers do we have?
Like 250.
250. So we have 250 alpha testers. They've gotten 32 alphas so far.
Yeah.
So we are, the meth is coming out, and it's starting to come out blue. We're starting to get our blue meth here. Okay. It looks
nice reference.
The problem is we can't deliver this until all the meth is just the right shade of blue, or people are going to complain that we're not actually as good as Walter White.
Okay.
So we have to finish the job, and everything we do simply shows the next thing that's not good enough. It's like on this train. It's straight out of Breaking Bad. It's this train wreck where each thing causes us to have
I love the references.
Issue until we have it all controlled.
Okay, so Austin, you're talking about future work or perfectioning the work that's happening, right? The current stuff, right? Making sure that the current gen is as good as it making. But here's the next question that the same guys have asked. Let's talk about some of the add-ons and the airplanes that were in X-Plane 11. Will some of those work in X-Plane 12? And is some of the work that you're describing a part of that?
So here's the deal. So Ben Sutnick, he's my right-hand man in the coding department, and he requires, as a matter of, and my God, this guy is dogmatic about policy. He will not change his mind on policy. The policy is everything you do for a version of X-Plane must work at least one version back. So whatever we did in 11 has to work in 12. Whatever we did in 10 had to work in 11. So as long as Ben has been with the company, we have always had everything work back at least one version. So that the answer to your question has already been decided by policy. If it worked in X-Plane 11, it has to work in X-Plane 12. The answer is yes.
I love it.
I'm annoyed by it because it slows me down because I'm not allowed to let the old stuff go to deliver the new stuff as quickly as I can. It slows me down and annoys me, but there's no question that when Apple pulls this crap on me, where all the stuff I used to do quits working, I want to take my Apple and throw it out the window. So
you on the hot button. Listen, Austin, you're actually leading me in perfectly into my questions here. Okay, here's the next question from FSA First Officer Eric. How are Orbx and X-Plane supporting upscale technologies like Apple's Metal FX, AMD's FSR, and NVIDIA DLSS? Now, Austin, I'm going to go to Anna first, if you don't mind.
So I think, for us, it's a learning curve, right? Like with all these things. So we've got some pretty smart people working around there, and we'll this is the same way that we're kind of learning. I've sort of mentioned before, we're sort of learning how to do things in Unreal and sort of how and some of the learnings that we actually do in another platform, we actually bring it in, right? So we've learned how to do LODs, for example, which we didn't know before. We learned to do animations, we learned to do special effects. Excuse me. So there is always that sort of ongoing learning curve that we have, and that's why also we need more developers. So if anybody out there is kind of,
that academy is going to come in plenty handy.
Yeah, count on us.
Austin, same question. How's X-Plane supporting upscale technologies?
Okay, so first of all, let me say I'm not the graphics guy. Okay, I'm the flight modeling guy. But of course we do metal. I mean, everyone in the X-Plane community knows that we do metal and then for Windows, so it's metal on Apple, and for Windows, it's Vulkan. Yeah, Vulkan and metal. But again, that's the purview of the graphics guys. We're always using the latest things. I think one of the areas of graphics that was kind of the high-res graphics that we got into quick was virtual reality. I think we're one of the first sims to have VR headset supported, and we're going to continue. So version 12.0 is not going to have super duper VR headset support, not really that much better than what you're used to in X-Plane 11. But that is one of the things we got on the short list for 12.1 or whatever, is to improve the virtual reality experience. So as far as Uprise goes, we are looking for speed VR support and meeting the needs of the pro market. I'm not interested in buzzwords and acronyms. I'm much more interested in what does a technology actually bring to especially the professional market. It's a professional market where I'm willing to say, okay, even if only a certain number of people use this technology, it's still worth doing because they're paying a $750 or $1,000 key. Right. So and also, and this is a little bit behind the scenes. I guess it's okay for me to say this publicly. I'm working with a customer that I can't name right now that is going to use X-Plane for level D. Level D is in Delta flight simulators, which is the highest level of certification that there is. And we're going to support whatever hardware and technology we need to meet level D certification, which is the highest level of certification.
That is amazing. All right, I know you can keep going, but we've got a whole host of questions. We're going to keep the fire burning.
Okay.
Next question is from, actually, before we get there, I just want to acknowledge that there is a comment from the Butter Club from Seedy, one of the community managers of Microsoft Flight Sim. Says, not a question, but wanted to say a hearty hello to our friends at Orbx and wish Austin good luck on the upcoming launch of X-Plane 12. Just wanted to acknowledge the community coming together, right? So hello to CD, and thank you guys for the well wishes over here. I love how we're entering a golden age, and this is all just to the benefit of Flight Sim community members. So thank you guys for the love there. All right. This next question is from Greg in Australia. What will be the status of multiplayer function in X-Plane 12?
I'm going to say it's initially, at least, largely unchanged in that you can do multiplayer flight. But okay, so now I'm going to talk in more vague terms without mentioning version numbers because I don't know the version numbers.
Sure.
But right now in X-Plane Mobile, you can fly online with everyone else. And we are absolutely seeing convergence between desktop and mobile. Okay, the X-Plane desktop flight model is in the mobile version as well. And there are plenty of cases where the technology that we developed in one platform, it goes across to the other one. And so the fact that mobile has a massive multiplayer online capability means it's inevitable. It's going to be in desktop as well. I'm not going to promise a version number, but I'm going to promise that in the long-term future, the only thing that will make me happy as basically the King Joffrey in the Game of Thrones and Islam in our research is that when you fire up X-Plane, you are connected to a world of X-planers. It will not matter if they are on desktop. It will not matter if they are on mobile. It will not matter if they're on an iPad, an iPhone, or a simulator. It's irrelevant. The access to the virtual world is completely at the discretion of the user. The fact that a continuous, variable, ever surprising, ever changing online world where you are flying with everyone else in real weather with real people acting as air traffic controllers in a world that has a certain reputation associated with it for you as a pilot as well.
You're suggesting a cross-platform X-plane where it doesn't matter, where it's device agnostic.
Well, it's already partially cross-platform.
I mean, of course.
Yeah, it's somewhat cross-platform now, and that the flight model is varying between the two. I want to have more and more convergence as we move forwards, and there will be a point. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have had this during the break, right? There will be a point where it is completely transparent how you decide to access the X-plane world. X-plane itself will be a thin little app that's a portal to the online world where you're flying. That's the long-term vision.
So give me the short-term vision. What can we expect? Sort of, it's the same, right? You talked about similar to X-plane 11.
I'm going to start to go to mobile. I'm going to start to play X-plane mobile. Chris Sirios, a mobile guy. I'm going to start saying, what have you learned from doing your massive multiplayer mobile? What does it do for the customer experience? What does it do for sales? What does it do for server bandwidth? How reliable is it? Can you get me an air traffic controller option there where you can be an air traffic controller? So when you get in mobile, not only are you flying with other pilots, but you can actually talk to them or have someone guide them around.
This is your short-term view, or are we still talking long-term?
That's short-term. That's very short-term. And then the next, but remember, these are questions. These are questions I'm asking, and I'm already starting to ask these questions. But then the next question becomes, okay, now what do we have to roll that into X-plane desktop? Gotcha. So that's, I mean, starting to ask the questions and integrate the technology is pretty short term. Now, in fact, when everybody gets it, I can't guarantee that's quite as short term.
I will definitely be holding you honest to that. All right, we're going to keep the questions firing. This one's from FSA First Officer Brian. What new features of X-Plane 12 is Orbx planning to take advantage of with their upcoming products?
I think I've been flicking through the comments here on YouTube, and they want to hear from Sampe. So this is going to be a
Santi. Same question. What new features of X-Plane 12 is Orbx planning on taking advantage of with their upcoming products?
One of them that said there's a lot to kind of. It's hard to put my finger on one new feature, but one that I know that people will enjoy is actually, I know that people use orthophoto imagery for a lot of their scenery. Having the ability to have actual water on top of ortho scenery is going to be a big one. So that's definitely going to be one that people are going to be enjoying. In terms of products, that allows us as well to, better shape water canals and rivers in some of our airports, even where the base ortho is there, but we can also, without having to touch the mesh too much, we could add a little bit more realistic features to some of the airports, and you see these ditches and stuff like that. So that there's so many different details that I can touch on, but I think that's probably one of the highlight ones that I see.
You touched on scenery, Santiago. This next question from Snaz MC actually touches upon this. Now, a lot of people have been asking this question. This is probably the second most popular question. Will we see an FTX Global for X-Plane like there is for FXX or P3D, or will there be improvements to the default scenery? Now, this might be for Austin to answer, but let's see.
For me?
For you.
Wait, I'm sorry. I thought this was an Orbx question. I'm sorry. Back up. Give me the question again.
Will we see an FTX Global for X-Plane like there is for FSX or P3D?
No, I'm not sure I can say that right now. So first of all, I don't understand enough about what the product is that you're referring to. Because I don't fly those other sims. If you want to back it up and set it up in a more generic context. So
sure. So, a lot of people use ortho and X-Plane. And so I'm curious if Orbx or X-Plane has any plans to see an FTX Global. So, as you know, Orthos, especially when you get down to the smaller millimeter size, right, the files grow exponentially. I'm curious if there's any thoughts there.
Right, which takes me back to where I think we started this whole interview, which is I need to give worldwide coverage so people can install quickly, not overflow a hard drive, let them go anywhere, let them install it at once. And so we're limited in that detail. We're not getting down to the millimeter size ortho photo for just the reasons of space and download and server and hard drive. It takes away from the ability to give you the entire world right now.
So will there be improvements, but like in terms of file sizes? I know that there's going to be improvements to the scenery, but what can you speak to in terms of the file sizing?
Okay, well, all right. So there's better compression coming out from time to time. I mean, Apple, they make plenty of mistakes, but my goodness, they can give a compressed image. They've got like these 2-bit per pixel file sizes. I don't even know how it's possible that they do it. But yes, there's always more compression coming around that's going to let us run up the detail. And when you look at the basic scenery files in X-Plane 12, yeah, you'll see they're maybe 20 or 30% better than used to in X-Plane 11, somewhat better. What's really going to be incredible is all the lighting and the clouds and the trees and the precipitation that all surrounds the world, which is of course the whole flying experience, which is obviously my first priority. But we are already starting to think about next generation scenery that'll come down farther down the pipeline. But I think the purpose of this interview is more for X-Plane 12 in the short to medium term.
Correct.
Which is higher detailed DSFs, distributed scenery format, scenery files, which is what we use, where we will be bumping up the res. But as far as ortho photo scenery goes, I do not, sitting here now, feel the desire to provide ortho scenery for X-Plane for 2 reasons. One, the whole hard drive space thing, it makes it untenable to deliver worldwide, and worldwide is what I want to deliver. And 2, there's absolutely nothing wrong with third parties such as Orbx and others coming along with that ortho photo, which is high detail, but probably won't be done for the steppes of northern Russia, right? It'll be done for Miami. So
Gotcha.
There is a wonderful place for properly done orthophoto scenery. It is not wisely
Copy that.
at the global level. A global level is what I provide, so that remains just a little bit outside of my targeted delivery for the time being, for very good reasons.
So I'm going to quickly toss it to Orbx. Will you guys create an FTX Global or something similar for X-Plane 12? You guys care to elaborate on there before we move forward?
Yeah, I'm kind of violently nodding here. That has been our kind of staple for a long time. Like I mentioned before, we do have a sort of geospatial team in Orbx, and so the answer is yes. Hopefully, yes, depending on what we can do with the platform. But for sure, I mean, we've created refined meshes. Also for Microsoft, for example, where you do have the whole kind of world pushed in, and so I think it is definitely an area of expertise for us. So it is definitely on our radar. I don't know when, but it's definitely on the radar.
Yes, but no date to attribute to it. All right.
Dates are always a little bit tricky to commit to. I think a lot of people are asking about a particular date, which exactly.
Well, I'll just take the yes. To be honest, I'll take the fact that you are taking a look at it as a major win.
And just to add on to what Anna was saying, it's also hard to pick dates for something that complex, especially with what Austin was saying with hard drive space and large coverage areas. We do have great experience with True Earth products for X-Plane 11 and other platforms. So bringing something that there's kind of like a balance between that what's accessible and doable. I think that's still we're still looking into that. So.
Amazing. I'm subscribed to the newsletter, so please keep me apprised. Let's keep the questions burning. This one's back over to Austin. This is from First Officer Frank. Anything new for VR in X-Plane?
Yeah, well, as I just said, the VR in X-Plane 12.0 is not going to be that much different from the VR in X-Plane 11. However, in the early 12.05, 12.01, 12.1, whatever it is, yeah, I will be working on VR and professional use. Basically, the delivery that we've got right now, I think, is great for consumer use. Absolutely great for showing people what it's like to fly an airplane. And we have that right now. We're just in bug fixing mode with scenery right now, which is why I was saying that I think we may well be in public beta this summer. But VR and professional use, these are like the ways that I really want to dial it in early in the version 12 run. There's a headset called the Varjo, which has like higher, accuracy in the center of your field of view and lower accuracy at wider. I want to get them supported. My level D visual customers and want to use X-Plane for their rendering. They've got all like these visual like checks and dome projection and warping and visual certification things. We want to get that in there. So I'm going to be hitting the professional use early in version 12. And I think you may be able to guess I'm hitting it for two reasons. One, for me, it's all about whatever the real airplane does, that's what I want to do. It's about the real aviation community, which lends itself to the certified application. But two, this is exactly what Microsoft is not doing. Right? I'm not going to say, maybe I can copy a Microsoft with Google scenery. No, what does that bring to the community? What does it bring to me? What does it bring to pilots? What does it bring to the community? Nothing. I need to do whatever they're not doing. And so going to the professional grade VR presentation, scenery, flight training, this is what Microsoft isn't doing. And that's where X-Plane is going to provide an incredible benefit to the community. So I'm going to be working on professional. And the headset is one of the answers to that.
I'm actually glad that you mentioned hardware because this next question from FSA Captain Sesim, are there any hardware requirements for X-Plane 12s? Will we all need new PCs?
No, you don't all need PCs. When I started having the beta testers move from X-Plane to 11 to 12, some were like, yeah, the scenery looks, everything looks 5 times better, but it didn't run any slower. And we are just massively dumping load onto the GPU, the graphics card. It used to be with X-Plane 11, it was all about the CPU, the central processor unit, and the CPU was all bottlenecked, and the graphics card was basically taking a nap. We've now inverted that. The graphics card is absolutely, I mean, that fan is at full speed. It's all up at 100% processors. And then the CPU is just kind of bouncing the load around between the various cores to keep things balanced as the graphics card is running at wide open throttle. So you want a good graphics card. We have not noticed performance deterioration. It renders way better than it used to. And it's going to really start putting some serious watts to your graphics card that you probably already have.
I'm loving that you're actually leading me perfectly into these next questions here. This next question from FSA Captain Doc John in DC: will it be easier for us to integrate hardware with X-Plane 12 rather than having to use things like FLUA scripts to make the hardware truly plug and play?
I don't know what he's referring to. Sorry, and I don't know which type of hardware you're referring to. So I'm not ready to answer that question yet. If you want to explain the hardware, I can try and go deeper into that, or we can move on.
I think I always need an excuse for a new PC, so I'm okay with that.
we'll come back. I mean, we're talking about things like Thrustmaster and off-the-shelf product.
Oh, hardware. Joystick hardware. So the way X-Plane works is anything that's USB HID, USB human interface device plugs into X-Plane. You can assign that access to anything you want. And yeah, we've got how many joysticks do we have preset, Thompson? Like 20, 30, a dozen, 2 dozen? 50. More than my fixer can count. So there's all kinds of joysticks you can plug in. X-Plane will recognize and give default assignments. But for joysticks that X-Plane does not recognize, you can easily assign any access to any function. Now, maybe the question is, it's so hard to assign, access to functions. I think this guy is not asking that question. There's some of this question I'm not understanding, because it ain't hard to assign an access or a button to any function you want, no matter what kind of joystick hardware you got. So I must not be understanding this question, because it's very easy.
Well, I mean, yeah, sir, for plug and play, I think this question was more generated for those custom home cockpit setups, right? Where they're doing the full at home and they've got custom hardware. Seeing with those, usually we use scripts, right, to make those work.
I see. Yeah. So those scripts, they're not. I don't see those changing. But here's kind of an interesting thing about buttons. It is in X-Plane. It's extremely easy for me to add new commands, right? A button is assigned to what we internally call a command, like lower landing gear, lower flaps. We can add more commands, and very easily, or the structure is very easy to expand. So if anybody wants to come along and say, hey, I'm building a whole cockpit and now I need my APU switch to go to APU start, but I don't see a way I can wire that up. I'll be like, yeah, okay, fine. I'll add a command called APU start. It's not a problem. I'll do it for you. And then I can roll that into the next update. So I can add more commands pretty easily. I can add more data refs pretty easily. So if that's what he's asking, I can add more commands. Now, is that enough to make your home built cockpit a snap to build? No, not
depends, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, 2 more questions for us, and I appreciate you guys surviving the gauntlet. You guys in the audience have been asking amazing questions. We've got 2 more left for you, and this one's from FSA First Officer Rebecca. Will we see improvement to the default navigation capabilities like the GNS 430 or the GNS 530?
Yeah, so Philip Munzel is the guy that does all that. And he has been working a bit on the 430 and the G1000. But you see, the thing is, I've been using X-Plane 12 for so long now, I can't remember what modifications he made were back in X-Plane 11 and what's in X-Plane 12. Because remember, for me, X-Plane is just one big long continuum with no version numbers. So yeah, he has been improving the 430 and the 1000. I don't know if you're going to see a difference between the latest version, 11 and the first version 12. What I want to get is a G3X. That's what I want to get. I want to get a G3X in X-Plane because that's something we have in a lot of airplanes. It's really good. So I'm kind of begging Philip to do that next. And remember, there's the real sim gear and the sim ionics G1000, right? If you want accurate G1000, G430, you can get those and they sit physically in front of you on a screen or an iPad or something like that. I've used both the sim ionic and the real sim gear G1000s. They're both great. And so, and that's a better experience than just having something in the cockpit rendered anyway, because you got the physical knobs. When it comes to G1000 and also for that matter, the G430, it's all about what knob do I rotate? What button do I push?
Yeah.
If you really want to get serious about that, you need some hardware. It can't just be the X-Plane simulation sitting there on the screen. You got to have the buttons and the knobs because that's level one on Garmin 430 and Garmin 1000. Which of those many buttons do I press? When do I press and when? So I would say look very seriously at the third-party options out there to get the physical hardware stuff because that's always fun to use. It does work.
Yeah, but we could still see some improvements to the 530 and
let me not answer for Philip. I don't want to be too
okay. We'll
Philip will make it better. Then Philip's going to be, so what are you talking about? I didn't promise that. So I want to try to avoid speaking for someone else. But yeah, I want them to be accurate. I mean, a G1000 is what my airplane has. So, I like it to be like the real plane.
Well, Austin, can you do me a favor? We've been watching your X-Plane 12 in the background. Would you mind flying your plane while we ask the last question?
I was kind of hoping you'd show my plane for the whole time.
Please, I would love for you to fly it while we ask the last question. All right. Everyone, we've arrived at the last one.
Why only one question? Are we out of time or what? I mean,
we are just about out of time. We're going to ask this last question and then we'll say our goodbyes. It's been, we made it to the end, Hey, listen, just because we go offline, Austin, doesn't mean the party is going to end. We're all going to go to the after party like we talked about, remember?
Okay.
All right, everyone. It looks like we have a viewership of, hold on, Evan, how many do we have? 35 million? Okay, that's a small crowd. It's kind of a little small. But imagine if 100 million people were listening to us, including mom and dad, governments, heads of state, everyone is listening. Anna, what message do you have to those folks?
35 million people.
It's 100 million in this case.
100 million people. Sorry, 100 million people. Go out more and with your flight simulator and go and kind of explore places, right? So I'm kind of like that idea a lot. I like a lot the idea of the visiting the world through something that you like doing, and so just pick it up and go and explore.
Explore the world. Santi, same question. 100 million people are watching. Okay, Barack Obama's got you on the mobile phone. What are you saying?
Well, just similar to what Anna was saying, I think it'd be, it's a perfect opportunity to share the world that we all occupy, right? The one world that we all call home. It's a beautiful planet, so share it with each other. Hop on a sim, show each other around.
Beautiful. I love that. Austin, lastly but not leastly, you, 100 million people, mom, dad, governments, everybody's watching. Right now, what do you got to say to everybody?
It is a beautiful planet. Let's not screw it up. Let's move towards airplanes that don't pollute. I've got one in the world, one of those right here, an electric airplane. It's going to preserve the planet. And a fascinating thing about X-Plane is it's a tiny little future prediction. You're looking at a little computer algorithm that predicts a little bit of the future. And it's available for anyone that wants to see a little glance at what the future is going to look like. And maybe it's just a future of what their flight is going to look like if they fly a Cirrus SR-22. Maybe it's what their future is going to look like if they fly a Boeing 737 commercially or professionally one day. Or maybe it's a little deeper look into the future. What's the next generation of aircraft that we're going to fly? X-Plane goes to first principles, and because of that, it's designed to tell the future. And you're about to have a chance with X-Plane 12 to take a little glimpse into what that future might look like.
Beautiful and well said, Austin. And I hate to answer my own question, but if 100 people are watching, I would say, Butter Club, get in there. But that's our time, everyone. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'd like to thank our panelists, Anna from Orbx, Santi of Orbx and X-Plane, and of course, Austin from X-Plane. You guys are amazing. Thank you for speaking with me. Now, it has been an honor being your moderator. My name is Sky Command, aka Sky C. If you want more of me for some reason, you can head over to twitch.tv/Sky Command and give me a follow there. We're also on TikTok. We're on YouTube. Why are we on YouTube? But seriously, it has been amazing. I would like to thank Evan and the FSA again. And not only will I see you at FS Expo 2023, my company, Plus Up Technologies, is powering the AV and the power for FS Expo. So I'm proud to say that FS Expo 2023 will be powered by my company, Plus Up. So I will see you guys there, okay? Make sure you take a picture. And with that, we are going to go ahead and get out of here. Again, it is truly a pleasure. Have a great evening. Good night, and we will see you next time. Evan, over to you.
Yes, and thank you. And I'll keep the Austin screen share up as long as I possibly can here, and we'll see when he decides to stop sharing his screen because it's fun to watch. But you can hear my voice even though you can't see me. I am here, I do exist, and I am going to give away some more prizes. So for everyone who's entered the contest at some point today, anyone who has entered the contest over at flightsimoassociation.com/contest, here is your chance, that last chance today, to win 11 more prizes. So here they come. I am starting, and unfortunately I'm going to have to switch over to show my screen at some point. But let me just remind you before I do that, if I announce that you're the winner, info@flightsimoassociation.com is the email you need to reach me at within the next 24 hours. I'll reply back to you with prize information. And remember, if you don't send me an email, if I announce your name but you don't send me an email, too bad. That prize is going to somebody else. All right, we got 4 copies of XCPL Pilot coming up. This is a great way to add purpose to your flying in X-Plane. You can do missions, you can be a medevac pilot, you can do all kinds of great things. Build your own, use what's available from the community. XCPL Pilot, 4 winners. First one is Neil Mason, maybe. Sorry if I made that one. Manson, Neil Mason, whatever. You know what? You know what your name is. Sven W is my next winner. Third one is Cod, and finally Tio Pernas. And I apologize for butchering people's names, but either way, send me an email. We'll get those prizes sent your way. Coming up next from our friends at Airfoil Labs, if you can call a Cessna 172 add-on for Flight Sim study level, their Cessna 172 NG for X-Plane is probably the one you're going to pick. So winners of the Cessna 172 NG and the King Air. And by the way, whichever review emails me first, you can pick which one you want. So Scenic Eye and Sherwin_A, whichever of you emails me first, you're going to get your pick of the King Air and the 172. The other one, you'll get whatever is left over. And hello to my friends at Airfoil Labs. Thanks so much, guys, for the sponsorship. We'll look forward to seeing you guys in Houston. Of course, we're giving away some copies of X-Plane because if you don't have X-Plane already, well, now's a good time to get on it. And yes, before you ask, these codes will work for X-Plane 12 as soon as it comes out. Winners of our 4 X-Plane combo codes, I'm going to say that's Divadoob. That's number 1. Number 2 is Corey W. David is our third winner. That one might be a little ambiguous, but if you put your name as David, send me an email and I will make sure that we have the correct person. And Airborne Hedgehog is the last one. So there's 4 winners of our X-Plane 11 or 12 combo packs. And now, finally, our grand prize for today, the second of our 2 Thrustmaster TCA Officer Pack Airbus Edition prizes. These are coming to you directly to your house, no charge, show up in the mail, an awesome addition to your flight simulation setup. And a big thank you to Thrustmaster as well as all of the companies sponsoring today's live stream. Obviously, they help make it possible, help make it fun for you guys, and Thrustmaster's been a great partner of ours. So our winner of the grand prize is Mark Bond. Congratulations to you, Mark. Make sure you send me that email within 24 hours to claim that prize. The questions today were awesome. There were way more questions than we had time for, of course, so we'll have to get Austin and X-Plane back again to do more questions, but that is all the time that we have for today. If you enjoyed today's session and you want more of the same, please consider joining us at Flight Sim Association. We just surpassed 5,000 members, which is crazy cool, and you can be one of them at flightsimoassociation.com/membership. You can also sign up as an FSA captain. That includes a free hour with a Flight Sim coach and a a real-world flight instructor, that includes 3 free Orbx products and, of course, perks and savings at our show, Flight Sim Expo in Houston. A big thank you to everyone who took part today, for the awesome questions from the audience, to our panelists, and for everyone else watching along at home. Thank you so much for being here with us. That's it from us here at FSA. Good night.